This tutorial is for the introduction for the first part of In a Time of Drought, which Brad put together the presentation. So I have Brad's presentation open. I also have the Cornell Notes template that you can use for this. We talked about scaffolding notes for kids, so the template is there. And then another little thing just to help with engagement that could help if you have it open when you're doing this. So in a time of drought, you're trying to create buy-in for the kids right from the beginning. This should be a very fun and exciting day because they're doing a lab on this day. It's also going to be really difficult to fit everything into one day. You might want to split it up where they do half of the stations one day and half the stations the next day, and I think you'd be okay with that. So first of all, you introduce the topic. We're developing a context as for how the drought in California affects organisms like rainbow trout, relying on the Salsa Creek watershed in addition to how we manage our scarcity of water. Our need for clean water has fueled interest in developing new technologies and industries to address this issue. One of the methods that's gaining attention is filtering new sources of water. As an environmental scientist, you are going to develop a model of how wastewater is treated so it can be reused for a drinkable water source. So that's what you're introducing to the kids, that they are going to be environmental scientists, and we're going to figure out how to use wastewater to make it drinkable. So a couple of things you might want to ask your kids is, what is wastewater, right? They have to figure it out, and this is where they're going to start to understand that wastewater is anything that goes through your house and then back out again. It could have gone in the washing machine, it could have been in the shower, and it definitely could have been in your toilet. So wastewater includes your poop and your pee, because that's mixed in with it, right? So you're trying to get buy-in. Now we want to figure out how it affects living organisms like the rainbow trout. So I have the Google map open to the creek that they're talking about right there, Salsa Creek, so you can help kids understand where it is and why it might have so many pollutants and things. And if you zoom in, you can talk to the kids. This is a great place to have a conversation like, wow, what do you notice? Do you think that this watershed is going to have pollutants? Well, oh my gosh, that's a highly populated area. Think about all of the toilets. Let's do the satellite view. Can we see all of the houses in that area? It might take a while to load. Sorry, and I only have 15 minutes. So like, oh crap, that could be a lot of toilets. Oh my gosh, look at that. There are rainbow trout in there, and we have to keep it clean for rainbow trout. How are we doing this? So now you're creating a level of excitement and environment of like what they're discovering is actually really helpful and useful. So their warm up on the first day is that they are supposed to tell us what is a water filter and how does it work. And I totally misspelled answer there, so I'll fix that. Boop. Answer, and I will again fix it the right way. Okay. So on day one, we're introducing the topic, and then they have this warm up. What is a water filter? How does it work? Draw a model illustrating and explain how you think water filter works. This is your initial model. So I would have them use this template. I've given you the questions at the top of what we're going to be addressing. So our objective is there's 7.1 in a time of drought, and we can pretty that up, whatever. And then 3 essential questions. How does drought affect the living organisms in California? How are Californians managing water scarcity? And how is wastewater treated and managed to made drinkable? So those are the things that we're focusing on within In a Time of Drought. Their warm up, what is a water filter? How does it work? They will answer that here, and then they're to be instructed to draw their model in this spot below. Filter is one of our key vocabulary words, so I highlighted there and I made a side note for you. They should come up with a definition for filter. You can look up a definition for filter, however you decide that you want to do it. This is a really great time to help them clear up their definitions when you have them share. So, for example, their definition for the warm-up might be something like a filter separates junk. Help them redefine junk as particles, because particles is another one of our key vocabulary words. And if you do that, if your conversation allows, particles will then go on the side underneath questions and vocabulary. Okay? Leave the spot below that blank for a while, because that's model redesign. So they're going to just do the warm up and the initial model of a filter, right? And then they're supposed to describe it. You will have a short class conversation about it so that you can help everybody else define their terms, okay? And then if you go back to the slideshow, you're going to be entering into their objectives of, I can model how a basic water filter works, and I can develop a model showing how wastewater is treated through different stages, right? They're really just doing the filter part today. Then you're going to move into the lab. So they have several stations that they're going to rotate through, and they're going to be keeping information on a separate document that's also in there, right? So we've got the coffee filter investigation lab. And then I went ahead and I made a lab sheet that you can pass out to all of the kiddos. Oop, there it is, where they fill in the information here. The boxes should be big enough for them to write in. And then on the back is their individually answered questions. So that goes with this task as well. So they do the lab, whether you split it into 1 day or 2 days, probably 2 days because you're going to be tight on time. And then as a group, they're supposed to analyze the data. So if you go back to your notes document, right? Down here, I put the questions that they're supposed to talk about as a group. This is another great time when you are doing whole class discussion or when you're visiting with small groups that you can help them define vocabulary words that they're maybe already using. They might be trying to describe a molecule, but they don't know the word molecule yet. Help them put the definition to that, and then the definition and the vocabulary word will go under questions and vocabulary. Maybe they're using atoms or filtration. Look at the other vocabulary that they should be covering in this unit and hit that. Don't hit that. And then, sorry, I skipped one part. Okay, so go back. After they finish the lab, after they finish their questions, they are then supposed to go back and do a model redesign. So now that they've worked through a filter and they've done all these activities, can they redesign their model? That will go on the front page. Then you should instruct them to do a, 3 or 4 sentence summary. You gauge it. In high school, I said 3 to 5 usually, which was kind of lazy of me. They probably should be doing 3 to 5 now in middle school of a summary about what they learned on just the first page. And they can, of course, incorporate the things that they did in the lab, but it could be a summary about noticing the differences between their two models, the before and after model. And then on the second page, they also need to do a summary. It is probably most important that you grade the summaries more than the other parts, because their summary is their understanding of the content that they just covered. And you get a really, really good look inside their brains when you read their summary, and you can tell they got it or they didn't get it based on what you see there. So that would be my advice for starting this unit. You are going to be covering the cross-cutting concepts of patterns, systems. You can even argue for stability and change. So you have those cards you can put up. And then practices, they're going to be using models, conducting an investigation, and analyzing data. All of that stuff they're just doing within these first 2 pages of the unit. So I hope that helps.